Gemara. Today's daf is daf Vav, and we're actually up to middle of the Amid by the two dots. And the Mishnah told us that if somebody built, they had a wall between the two of them. So regardless which opinion you hold, Hezekriya is considered a damage or Hezekriya is not a damage, you have to rebuild that wall if it collapses, but only up to 4 amos. Above 4 amos, even though the wall was 6 amos tall, he cannot compel you to join in for 6 amos wall, you only for 4 amos. But what happens if that person decides to build above 6 amos? And we did talk about yesterday an argument if you can stop that, but he didn't, and he built further. You don't have to pay for the extra above 4 amos. But if you have demonstrated that you're happy with that wall, for example, you built a wall next to it, extending from your house, and you plan to use the wall, let's say put the beams for the roof, so then you have to pay for extra, even before you place the beams. You demonstrated that you're enjoying it, that you have a no. And in fact, the two ways of looking at it, why are you paying? Is it a prepayment? In other words, really you don't have to pay until you have the hana. But since you're about to have the hana, prepay now. Or you're paying, since you can have hana, you have to pay now, because now is when the chiyuv starts. Because since he built it and you demonstrate you have enough from what he built, so you have to pay now, not because you're prepaying. That's the payment. And the difference would be the following machlek is there. What happens if he builds an extra 3 amos above? So now it's a 7 amos wall. But you only need 1 amos of that extra, or 2 amos of that extra. Do you pay for the entire 3 extra amos or not? So he says, if you're already using part of it, you got to pay for the entire extra extensions. It would seem then that the chiyuv is the moment you show that you are happy with the extra that he built, you're chayiv now for what he built. So therefore, you pay whatever it is. But Ab Nachman says, you only pay for what you use. In that case, it's really you're paying for the hana that you're having, and you're just prepaying for that hana. So whatever the hana is, it is. Rav Huna, who said that you pay for the entire wall, even though you're only part of it, but he's made if you've clearly demonstrated that you don't need any more. He's bekarnavelufta. He said that he's made in a case where you've demonstrated you're not going to build any more. And Rashi learns that karnavelufta is one thing, which basically is you have a house and your house is one side attached to the wall, and then you have a shed. And you decide to add a shed to your house, and you're not extending the house itself, just a little bit of a shed. So then you're not going to go any higher than whatever the shed is. And therefore, only that part of the wall you're going to use. Or lengthwise, you're only using part of his wall because he built the shed, and it's a complete room. There's no other extensions there. So therefore, you only pay for the usage of that part of the wall and no more than that. That's how, what do you call it? That's how the Rashi learns draft. Teisha learns you made a bend in the wall to show that you don't, in your wall, to show you're not going any further than that bit, whatever you did there. Or you made the wall, the way it used to be, that the walls used to be built, that the top part of the wall was narrower so that the water where it was rain, should come down. So you built, let's say, a little bit higher room there next to the wall, but you've made the wall thinner, so it's obviously that you're not going any further because you can't build any higher than that. So then that's what lufta is. Then you only pay for part of the wall. He clearly made it by freezer or the kavasa the chshuda. If you're going to put beams on a wall, you don't want the wall gets wet and eventually it erodes. So you put a big long beam across the entire top layer of the wall to show you plan to put beams on top of that, and that beam in the bottom protects it. Or kavasa the chshuda, you made like windows and holes in the wall, and you cover it with slats internally inside, which means you're going to put beams in. And these beams are going to be the floor of the next story, which means you plan to extend it higher. So then you demonstrate clearly you want to go higher. Taisa says, talking about the case where width-wise, you had one stone protruding, one stone in, which clearly showed the wall isn't over yet. You plan to continue the wall. And what do you call it? And the same in another part like Rashi. Remember, we said in the Mishnah that if the guy who built the extension of the wall says to you, pay me, and you said you pay, we don't believe you. Because most people don't think that they have to pay anything above 4 amos. And most people don't think they have to pay if I didn't use it yet. One thing I understand, if I use it, if I just got to build a wall next to it, and one day I plan to use it, I should pay now. Nobody really thinks that you do. So to say that you paid in the money rate, we don't believe you. What about Beit Kavi? It's more than just that he built a wall for you. He actually made holes in his wall. This is the person who built the wall higher so that you could place your beams there. Can you then say, isn't that proof that I paid for it? That proves nothing. Why? More than that, even if he put slats inside those holes, the person who built it, waiting for you to put your beams across, can you then say, see, does not prove that I paid for it? No, it doesn't. Because the guy says, the guy says, you want to know why I put these holes in there? You didn't pay anything. I mean, I thought, I know one day you're going to use this wall. And when you're going to appease me, you're going to say, look, I'll offer you money. Like, at least I should say, imagine once the hole is up, the wall is up, you start making boring holes in there, you're going to bore holes in there, it can ruin the entire wall. So when I built the wall, I built it already anticipating that one day you're going to use it for yourself. So it's no proof that you ever paid. Nachman said, if you have a chazaka, let's say, for example, that what we're gonna learn now is the whole subject called cheskas tashmishin. The fact that I used your thing for a while does not prove that you either gave me a gift, you me, or does that prove that I bought it from you? I bought it from you. So we have many opinions. We'll learn in the third paragraph about Basha that a chazaka of karka takes 3 years. In other words, within 3 years, if I say, what are you doing on my property? And you were there for 2.5 years, and you say, look, I was there 2.5 years, it proves nothing. You have to be there at least 3 years, because then I can ask you, where's your deed? You say, look, 3 years already, I lost them here so long, nobody claimed anything against me, so I just wasn't very particular, very careful. So you need a chazaka of karka, you need 2 things, 3 years and a taina. If I say, look, I don't know whose property it is, but I've been squatting here for 3 years, nobody said anything, that proves nothing. You can be there for 20 years. You have to have a taina, I bought it from you. Where's my deed? I lost it. That's your chazaka with a taina. What about cheskas tashmish? So you have 3 opinions here. Some say the Rambam mothers you have to wait 3 years, just like the other one. You need a chazaka 3 years, and within that there's a machlekes if you need a taina or even without a taina. If I was working on your property, doing things tashmish for 3 years, and you said nothing, then you're meichel me. I don't have to have a taina. Others say that this chazaka is 30 days. I have to have 30 days of usage, and you said nothing, then it's chazaka. But I also need a time to say you gave it to me as a gift, you gave me permission. We give them 3 years. That's what cheskas karka. Or cheskas tashmish is something that people get annoyed very straight away. Karka, they don't mind, I'm not doing anything with the property, but because when you use it, it's deteriorating. So therefore, Rashi and others hold 30 days. Others hold, the Rashbam holds it straight away. Straight away is a chazaka. In 2 minutes, if you saw and you didn't say anything, that's already a chazaka. And then, if I can prove that you allow me to use it, and then let's say I'm allowed to use your wall, does that also prove that the wall belongs to me? The stones of the wall belong to me. If it's a cheskas 3 years, yes, it is. If the time that I can say, then I bought it from you. If it's pure cheskas tashmish, I use it for 1 minute, and that means you allowed me. That doesn't prove that I bought the stones. It proves that you were meichel me. That's all it proves. So now the Gemara says, if I have a chazaka, I use your wall to put in smaller beams, does not give me the right then to put heavy beams on it. If I put heavy beams on the then surely I have a right to change it to lighter beams because it causes less damage to the wall. Rabbi Yossi says, no, makes no difference. Once I have a right to put things on the wall, even lighter beams, I can put just because I happen to use lighter beams at the time, doesn't it means I have a right to do whatever I want, unless the owner of the wall specified differently, said only thing you can use is hoodie. Nachman himself said it. The shuri, you can use anything you want. Even though we had the last Gemara in Bava Metzia that about regarding if the house collapsed and previously you had sycamore beams, you shouldn't use cedar beams because they're much heavier. What's the difference? So the Rosh Hashanah asked the contradiction of the Gemara, but one of the answers is over there you guys bought already an existing house, so the only rights that you had upstairs was to have sycamore beams. Here we're talking about there's no existing house here. I'm going and I'm starting to put things on your wall, and with the time you gave me a right, and you didn't specify what I should put on it, so therefore I didn't have these heavy beams then. I just had whatever these light beams, but I have a right to do it. Nachman, next thing, 2 neighbors. And this is always the water from one neighbor is dripping into the next, the roof is overhanging, right by the boundary, and it's dripping into the next door neighbor's property. So if you have a chazaka for drips, then and when it drips across the entire length of the roof, it's dripping the entire length of this person's courtyard. But if I have a storm pipe, a drain pipe, then the water, even though it comes out in a bigger gush, but it only comes to one little area of the yard. So if I have a chazaka for notfi, surely I have a chazaka for shafchi, because the neighbor prefers shafchi rather than notfi. Notfi, the entire length you can't use for anything because the water constantly dripping. Once you have a right to do one thing, you didn't specify otherwise, you can do the whole thing. Each of others say, Nachman said, Nachman said you have a right for both. But the urban is where you have, let's say, a roof made out of willows, so a bunch of branches, they're all very closely compressed together. So then the dripping is not just dripping throughout the entire length of the thing, but it's like a waterfall, because they're all so close to each other. All the drops are contiguous. It's like one long sheet of water, and that is really bad for the neighbor. And you have no chazak for that. Even that, once I have the right to use it for water, I can do anything I want, unless you specify otherwise. He actually paskined according to his halacha, that he allows them to continue as a halacha. He can change it to that. If somebody rents a house to his friend, let's say I have a large house and have a number of rooms there, and I give you one of the rooms. What rights do you have for the wall outside of your room? To use the wall to hang your laundry, or to use the wall for things. You put your hammock against the wall. Mishtamish bizizeh, so you can use for the projections and the wall. Ad dal damis, even 4 amas away from your room, the width of the wall away from your room to another room. You can use that section of the wall. You're allowed up to 4 amas on all sides. What about on top of the wall? The minig is, because everybody's happy if you put things on the wall, you're weighing it down. But the minig is you're allowed to. And they used to have a garden in front of the house to beautify, to enhance the property. And that wall there, the whole purpose of that garden is to enhance the property. If they walk in and they see your laundry hanging there, it's going to mar the whole, the vista. So therefore, they're light. You have no right. Even though you have a right, unless you specify otherwise. This is Rashi says that the rule is Chatzir is always in front of the house, and a Rechava is always behind the house. Light. And Rav says even the street behind the house, you can put your things there in the backyard, unless specified otherwise. It says, let's say you have, let's say like a little beams that purely for shade. Purely for shade, no other reason. He's ad plus and yom have a chazaka till 30 days is not a chazaka. Bosa plus and yom have a chazaka. For 30 days, I have these beams going across up to 30 days, because the guy knows it's very, very hot. You want shade, it's very temporary. So he didn't make a big deal out of it. As for 30 days, okay, you'll take it down, you dismantle it. But if it's more than 30 days and he allows you to continue using his wall, that means you have a chazaka. If this 30 days is added on to what I told you before about 30 days, no, if the one who holds 3 years says 3 years plus 30 days, that's when you start counting. Because the first 30 days don't count at all. One that says 30 days, is, according to someone showing within that opinion, is 30 days plus 30 days. And the one that says la'alta is la'alta right after the 30 days. Straight away, right after the 30 days. The sukkah, the mitzvah, the sukkah of a mitzvah. Now, the sukkah mitzvah is different. Ad shivas yom you'll have a chazaka. Basra yom have a chazaka. Sukkah after 7 days, and Taisha says it really means 8 days. Interesting, on bubble, they should say 7. Shemina said us, you can't dismantle a sukkah. You should have said 8 days, it doesn't count. But anyway. Could be, okay. Exactly. Taisha says lavdafka. 7, it means 8. 8 is after Sukkah, right away. This matter. Now, why should it be different? What about the 30 days? Because the Sukkah, it seemed that people used to build the Sukkah permanent. They were permanent. The only thing is Chachi kept on changing, but the Sukkah itself was permanent. So, the first case was the guys in summer is very hot. It's the hottest month of the year. You bake this little, pergola out there, something to keep the sun out for the shade. That's very temporary. So sometimes he says, I'll be a nice guy, I'd like you to do it. It's only temporary anyway. A sukkah is, once they build it, it's permanent. The structure itself is permanent. It's just a schach that you change from time to time, but the structure is permanent. So he should have right. Okay, sukkah is a mitzvah. He has to allow you. So I know it's only 7, 8 days, but as soon as sukkah is over, because he knows the permanent edifice, he should have right away, be a protest and say, "Hey, what are you doing? It's my wall. You're not planning to leave in a month. This is a permanent structure." If he doesn't say that, that means that he another person says, "I bought the right from you, or you meichel me," you'll believe him. And if he cemented it down, then even sukkahs right away is a chazaka because you don't need that for sukkahs. Obviously, he plans to leave it there forever. You should have protested. Sorry.
Talking about the chazaka of the sukkah, perhaps for many years, I don't know if it still happens, but the pizza shop used to put on the street a sukkah, and the fire department or the building office used to give them a notice. You have 30 days to dismantle this illegal structure. No worries, we're law-abiding citizens. We'll take it down. We'll even less than that. Give us a week. We'll have it down.
Yeah. What about you? Shnei botim b'shnei tzidei reshus rabim. You have two houses, two opposite sides of the main street. And now in those days, the roofs, if it was a flat, if it was a it was a slopey roof, obviously you couldn't use it for personal use. But if it was a flat roof, they used to use it. First of all, they used to dry. Remember, they used to dry the tziyas. They dried this tight. But a lot of people also used to sit out there and eat and use the roof as a dira, as a partial living thing. So even though a gag is much less used than a chutzah is mamish like an extension of your house. So Shnei Botim and we can look into each other's or onto each other's roofs. Now normally when you have to put a fence around your roof, it's only 10 tefachim high to protect people from falling down. But here we're worried about looking into each other and peering onto each other's roofs. So, but what do you do? Who builds it? Which guy should build the wall? So each one builds a wall only for half his roof. But no, not mamish opposite each other. Diagonally, you do the north side of your roof, and I'll do the south side of my roof. But so that we don't really see each other. But the fact is, if I'm standing on my other side, I can see like into you. So each one has to extend it a little bit so that it obstructs the view that nobody can see, that people cannot see. My Yiddish why talk about Rosh Hashanah in between? I feel even Rosh Hashanah in between. Now, this Rosh Hashanah is not a chutzah, because the chutzah, then they have to build a full wall, not to look into the person's courtyard. We learned before it's the gag who damages the chutzah, not the chutzah the gag. But so we're talking about Rosh Hashanah, that's not a chutzah, and the people don't use it for private stuff. Rosh Hashanah is a chiddush. Why? Let's say Reuben and Shimon. Reuben can say to Shimon, name a safe. Why should I build a mic at all? You anyway have to build. You're going to build this other fence. Forget about me. I'm across the street. What about other people in the street? You want them to look onto your roof to see what you're doing? You're going to build a wall anyway. So what do you want from me? Leave me out. I'll build a wall when I'm ready, if I ever want a wall. Safe. You anyway have to protect yourself from the public. So what do you want from me? The other guy can say, no, you're more of a threat to me than the public. And why is that? Rabbi, a number of reasons. Rabbi, the public, they can only see me during the day. At night, they can't say anything. So I can do my things there and they'll never know. They don't interfere. But you're having an impact. You, baby, you see the day or night. Rabbi, the public, if I stand up, they can see me. From their angle of their vista, they cannot see me if I'm sitting. I'm taking a suntan. They can't see me. I'm lying there. You can see me the whole time. I'm standing. I'm sitting. Rabbi in the public, they have to peer, they have to strain their necks to see me. They're not really focusing. They're just walking right by. Even if you don't intend, you're right there. You see me all the time. Oh, my Abaye just said, he's a Michael Chatzigaga, you have to add a little bit more so that you obstruct the view. Pshita isn't obvious. Why should one person build a wall more than another? Of course, they both have to build a wall. What's Abaye's chiddush? We need it. The Kodim Chad Menai, but we're talking about a case where one of them went ahead and built part of the wall. You built already half the wall. So and now he's taking the other guys in Torah, but I want you to build your other half of the wall on your side. So there's a chiddush. What's a chiddush? I would have thought that the guy across the street can say, "Namely, either look, you already built half the wall. Here's money. There's cooler, but there's cooler. Continue building the wall." Now why? Yeah, it means you take expenses. Expenses. So now, why would you think that he has a right to say that? Because he can say, I would have built the entire wall. If we would have gone to Chatzchila, I would have built the entire wall. You know why? Because it's very difficult to find builders to build a half a wall. and they're going to charge me an excessive amount. So I would have been happy to build an entire wall on my property, and you will split the money and split it half and half. Now that you build half the wall, you continue. That's what we'd have thought. Commercial on, so it comes to teach you, no, you can't say that. And why not? The Amalei says, look, why didn't you make a wall till now? That's my time of why didn't you make a wall till now? Because the Isra Ashisa, because having a wall on top of your roof is going to cause the walls of your house to sink. And eventually, so that you prefer that I build a wall rather than you build a wall. No, in that case, it's much better for my wall to have a half a wall on it, which is not as heavy as a whole wall. Just like you don't want the wall on your property, that's why you did build till now. Neither do I. So you can't. We know this logic doesn't make sense. Gag, a roof. If my roof is the same height as your courtyard, the land is in depression, and my house is much lower than yours, and my courtyard much lower than yours, and therefore, so my roof is near you, right? Is adjacent to your chutzah. So the din is, remember that it's the guy in the roof. We learned the base on the bottom. The guy in the roof is causing damage to the guy in the chutzah, because the guy in the chutzah says, "I don't know, you're hardly ever there." So I get lulled into this false complacency that I have privacy there, and so I don't know where you pop up. I can you know I'm there all the time, so you know that you don't do private things there. But I get this false sense of security, and therefore the guy on the roof has to build a wall. So he says like this: he makes himself a wall, 4 amos. Make a wall 4 amos, because he's the one. So the roof guy pays for everything. But if there were 2 roofs next to each other, contiguous, touching each other, you don't have to. The roofs, I know when to avoid you, and you can avoid me, so we don't have to build a 4 amos wall. But you're right, you don't have to build a 4 amos wall. So you still need a 10 tefachim wall between 2 roofs. Now the question is, Lamai, what's the role of this 10 tefachim wall? Are we worried that even on roofs it'll be hard to use it? And we know, when I can see when you're there, so I won't do anything, private there while you're there. So then what? And that's why you don't need a 4 amos wall. So then, if we're worried about Hezekiah, then what's the point of a 10 tefachim wall? Doesn't help at all. Where the roofs are contiguous to each other, you would think that we don't know where my roof ends, where your roof begins. It's like one long roof, attached houses. Then b'mesibit b'almasag is enough to have little spikes coming out of the ground, little pegs, and that's enough. What do I even need 10 tefachim for? What do you need a fence?
So that's
a boundary.
The neighbor of coming into your property.
Exactly. So you have a marker there, any kind of a marker, and then if you catch you. But why so high? Make it a tefach. And if I catch you on my side, we know you're a ganif. This is interesting. What in the world are Gidim B'Tloy doing on the roof? So obviously, that's where they used to park the goats and the sheep. Is then you don't need again a 10 fucking proper fence. All you have to do is build posts that are less than every 3 tefachim, so the goat can't squeeze its way through with the lamb and keep it on your side. So why spend this whole expense? No, the reason is we don't want the guy to come on your side of the roof, and that's why you need 10 tefachim. But mesipis, if it's merely just a few little low pegs, motzi mishtamidle, and then you find me inside the roof, nobody can say, "Oh, I something dropped on the other side of the boundary." Exactly. I was picking something up. But if it's a 10 tefachim thing, that's a big effort to climb over. It's a private property. He would go downstairs and ask you a favor. Do me a favor. I lost my ball on your roof. Says the Gemara, the mechitza 10 tefachim can't come up with an excuse. I just stuck my hand out. Here we can say I struck my hand out, to get the ball. Meanwhile, he's taking other things. Makes a question. It says, but I said, it says if your chutzah was above the roof of your friend, your chutzah was above the roof of your friend. Is the ain is cooking like that you don't have to no, for some reason or other, your courtyard is on higher ground, and his house is below ground, and his roof ended up being below your chutzah. So then in that case, you don't need a wall between the chutzah and the gag, because the guy in the roof is hardly ever there, and so they don't really affect each other. My lab, ain is kokila cloud. It seems from here that you don't need a wall at all. Ain is kokila dal amas. So in this case, you don't need 4 amas. I will neskokila mechitza sorry. There is a machlek is a shayim. The Rosh says, but the guy in the chutzah still has to build a wall because he can look on the gag. It's the guy in the gag who doesn't have to, so the guy in the chutzah decides. The guy in the chutzah maybe the question whether he has to build a wall or not. But the guy in the gag, all he has to do is build a 10 tefachim wall.
Well, he anyway has to build a mic.
Yeah, but in this case, how are you gonna fall off? Unless the other side. Here, if your gag is here and this guy's chutzah is here, where you falling? Unless in his own property he has there's a gap. We're talking about here that's sort of they're close. Yeah. Okay, interesting. Getting more further. Each what we learned. You have two courtyards, one higher and one lower. Now, but two courtyards, we need a wall. As a griya, you need a wall. The problem is that let's say this guy's property is 4 tefachim below this guy's property. You need a 4 amos wall. So from the guy property above, 4 amos starts from where he starts. The guy below needs that they have that 4 amos wall, but he also has to build 4 tefachim from below. So the guy above has to contribute to the below part because that's sort of the foundation of the wall, or not, because his property starts higher up. So he only has to pay 4 amos from his property where that begins. So there's the Gemara. Two chatzeidas zula ma'ila mazul. The guy below has to start building the wall from where he is, and he goes up, including the 4 amos in the above ground. And the guy in the bottom, the guy on top starts only from where his property starts, and that's where he contributes from. What do you call it? And that's what Chiza says. No, since the Elyon needs the bottom for a foundation, Elyon Misayeh will matter bonus. So therefore he contributes as well, plus the land. Because remember, let's say it's a 6 tvachim wall, and each one gives half the land. So the guy in the bottom gives 3 tvachim, the other 3 tvachim we scoop out from the sand from the guy on top and use that as land, or that's the land for the wall. If it's possible to see the dirt that's existing there. We'll look at that you actually have to start from below. The guy on top has to contribute. The guy on top shouldn't say anybody I'll start from where I am and go up. He has to start from the bottom and build up. What happens? This is what we learned before. If your chutzah is above the roof of your friend, you don't have to help him out because he knows that you're there all the time, and the guy on the roof is hardly ever there, so you can avoid each other. How about today? 2 people that were living together. We lived before in the end of Bava about a landlord and the house downstairs collapsed. Whatever the house upstairs collapsed, all the different roofs, the middle floor collapsed. So how did they today? 2 people lived together. Wasn't a landlord or tenant, but 2 people. One guy lived upstairs, one guy lived downstairs. The walls from downstairs sank. The house downstairs suddenly disappeared. The guy in the upstairs still perfectly all right. The guy downstairs says, "Nope, let's go rebuild the house." I'm not shopping good, What for me? I'm happy. In fact, I'm even happier. I don't have to walk up so many stairs. He said to him, "I'll offer you know what? I'll demolish and I'll rebuild." The guy says, "Let's do the midday. Meantime, where am I going to live? I have nowhere to live. I'm not. I will rent you a place. It's too big of a hassle to move my furniture somewhere else." You would think it's midas dime, but it's not midas dime because it is a hassle. Midas dime is if it costs you nothing, why don't you help out? Here, there's a big hassle to move, to relocate. He said, like terachna. So the guy downstairs said, "But like miserly, I can't live downstairs. The roof, the ceiling sort of sunk, and my house used to be, to be 6 feet tall, and now my house is only 3 feet tall." So the guy says back to him, the guy upstairs says, "Shufa krisich, go crawl on your stomach, and go into your house. Shufa krisich, and go crawl on your stomach and exit." That sounds very cruel, but remember we learned yesterday, we discussed, Ein merachmin bedin. It's one thing to be mentioned. Another thing is what the halach is. The law is very cold and brutal. He's within his rights, the guy upstairs, that he doesn't have to move, doesn't have to relocate. But when do we say that? When the guy that says can still live, but you can crawl inside. But if the roof, the ceiling itself, okay, the door sank and it's very hard to get into the house. But if the ceiling itself is the house no longer livable, below 10 tefachim, learned by a sukkah that a house minimum 10 tefachim, but Shabbos, a house has to be 10 tefachim high, then I have a matik shul but if it's lower than 10 amalei lematim yudushusidiyu, below 10 tvachim, you're living now in my space. And I am indebted. My downstairs is indebted to keep yours upstairs, but I don't have. If there's no downstairs anymore, you moved into my downstairs. So the problem is you.
Charge your rent.
Okay, but I'm going to force you out of my house. I'm evicting you. Immediately last thing I bet that is all talking about there was no, there's no contracts with all these, the 65 pages of details. But if he made it tonight, he said, look, each if anybody suffers, the other one has to contribute, then subsidy a bonus, then I can force you to bring. Easy. But he asked about Dodi at Kama, even when it's tonight, okay, if it's not livable anymore, what's not livable in it? If you add that stipulation, not livable, what's that? Just like we learned later on when you buy a house, whatever it is, how do you build a house? And there it says, interesting, we learned from the Beis Hamikdash that the Beis Hamikdash was 30 amas and long and 20 amas and 10 amas wide. So half of that is 20 amas and the height was 20 amas. So roimai, you know what a really good, you don't really see that anymore today. A really good house is when the height is kechatzi orka kechatzi rochbay. But the height of the ceiling should be, you add the length and the width of the room, and you divide that in half, and that's what the height should be. So the room is 20 meters, 20 yards, 20 meters wide, long, and 10 meters wide. That total is 30. Divide that in half, 15. Your ceiling should be 15 feet yards high. So therefore, he says, if the upstairs is sank below that, it's not livable. How many times did I tell you? Obviously, this conversation I had many times before. He said, how many times did I tell you? That loy titla be bukas shriki b'Ramnachman. What are these empty-headed people or these empty pots in Ramnachman? Ramnachman is such a thing that it's not livable if it's below 15 amas. The way normal people live. What's a normal height of a ceiling? Interesting. What's the normal height of a ceiling? I'm going to put it in sure. If you look at the old houses, you see the ceiling, the rooms look much bigger because the ceilings are always higher. It's the modern houses that the ceiling getting lower and lower. So he says here, you know what it is? The hodder. If, for example, you take a bundle of reeds, you put it on your head, you go into the house, and you can make a circle, full circle. So you have a height, not just the height of the head, but another basking of height a little bit higher, which is probably what we have today. And and you could turn around very quickly. This a similar story. A person that built a wall behind the window of his friend, blocking the sunlight. You built a wall right by you're obstructing my sunlight or my view. I'll tell you what I'll do. I will. You have a window right here below the wall, right? And you want your sunlight. I'm going to close it up. I'll build you another window above my wall ends. You'll have plenty of sunlight. Well, you take my wall and you're starting to make holes in it. It's going to fall apart. I'll tell you what I'll do. From where the window was, I'm going to break the wall down and I'll put a new wall. I will make you a window above that. A wall, half the bottom is old and the top part is new, like it doesn't last very long. I'll say better. I will offer to break the entire wall to the ground, and I'll build you a brand new wall. I'll make new windows, beautiful. The house first doesn't look very nice. It's one modern wall, and the rest of the wall work. I'll tell you what I'll do for this one little window. I'll demolish your entire house. I'll be a brand new house with brand new windows. I don't know where to live. I'll rent you a place. I don't want to move. That he has every right to say that. Isn't the principle the same? You can't evict somebody. It's like an idiot. What do you have to tell me this case for? The next door neighbor, the one who built this wall, is cool. Sorry, the person who's complaining about the window, you're blocking my sunlight, only has a warehouse that doesn't even live there. How much sunlight does he need for a straw? And nevertheless, he has a right to claim sunlight. Okay, we'll stop here. Have a good day. See you tomorrow. Mitzvah.